Hi guys. So here today to talk about the ban list. I think it's definitely an interesting one. I think it's definitely a good one. Um, Very specifically, they have hit probably the top. So the top two, I would say they've hit things from the top four or five decks in terms of we were probably fourth or fifth place. I think feels about right. This is obviously a very verdance centric approach. So, very very quickly cover the obvious stuff. Bonds of Agony is banned. This is just good news for us because the damn thing was annoying. It is the hardest thing for us to have to correctly block. It causes the biggest problems because if you're playing into a fatiguey matchup and they just steal your rampants, you've lost. It was your lose condition into new so frequently that she would just manage to grab hold of those if you weren't careful. Um, Tipples have been taken from Gravy. We'll see how that shakes out. I think he's still going to be well up at the top, just not quite as amazing as he was before. Um, because they have plenty of other choices to replace that. They can no longer do it all. They can't draw a card, discard a card, make a gold. All the things that card did in one little package. Germinate is unbanned. I think that has big ramifications for us, which again I will get onto. And Talk a Big Game is banned. We don't care. It wasn't good. It was going to be good. We're never going to see the results of that. So, whatever. The big one, Bloom of Evergreen, is banned. So, I guessed most of this ban list. I was very, very close. My only thing I was off on was I didn't think they'd take Bonds. I thought they would take Mantle. Turns out they've basically taken both because no one's playing Mantle without Bonds of Agony to turn it into. But I see this as nothing but a positive. It was it was very good in itself. It was far too good with Mantle. It was doubly far too good with Arachne slip through the cracks going, I'm going to throw any random stealth attack, and if you do not defend it properly, as in over defend it or have D reacts around, it's gonna be a Bonds of Agony and you're gonna skip a turn. And skip a turn is how you lose the game, right? You can barely afford to skip one. You certainly can't afford to skip two. And if he hits you with two turn skips, you're done, which he regularly did. So one of our harder matchups. It was winnable by sure. Like I think I feel like I had about 35% win rate into him, but it was always very very difficult. Um, with um, with Plume, um, I saw the writing on the wall. Um, Not as much because of Burn the Leaves, I think it's called, T's new card, um, which, does give it a lot of finishing potential. Because basically, if you have one in your bin, which you will, because you'll run three and you'll block with one and not decompose it at some point, it means that with your equipment in place, you crack Bloom, you crack Boots, and you have three blues in hand and you throw 9 damage, and that is like a guaranteed end of every game, which is fairly strong. Like that is very solid. I don't actually think it's broken, is my personal take on that. But I'm all for them going, we don't want every game to just be that if you hit 9 life, you die from the waning moon. 9 damage finishing hit. So that's a big reason they apparently said. But the big thing for me and the reason I felt it was going to go was win percentages. So I have complained a lot from the verdance side before about how certain matchups are just a nightmare. So playing into board state when you are on a more arcane heavy verdance, it's just an auto loss. Prism is still nightmarish with the auras, for example. Because the second they get one more than you can blow up a turn, you never get rid of them. And it just escalates and spirals and gets worse and worse and worse. And, I have complained so many times about the fact that, Verdance, with a lack of a weapon and with a lack of go again, does not have the tools to deal with that kind of board state. And I hate it. I hate that it exists. I don't mind a hero being favoured. I certainly don't mind not being the best hero, because Verdance has been solid the entire time she's been out, but she has never been at the top, which is a good thing and is why I'm drawn to her, because, loosely speaking, any Muppet can win with a broken deck, so I'm not that interested. What she does, though, is on the flip side, she pulls the same bullshit into slow heroes. So Guardians and Guardian-like people. So, your Teklos, your Florians. People who try and play a slow game die to her just doing a big bomb combo. And the most egregious little finishing bit is that Plume either lets her go even deeper with the combo, where you can do, 4 copies of Rampant Growth, which, is huge. Or way more commonly, you can assemble your combo without having to find all the parts. Being able to draw, like 4/5 of the kill and go, and I left the rest of it in my graveyard, excuse me, while I grab it, is a big deal. It gives her far too easy a ride into them. I would say most Guardians are a 99% win rate for her. And I think the hardest ones, she's still above 90. Pushing that 95 mark, I would say. Because, they play a slow game and she just goes block, 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 block. 40 damage to your head. So, I completely get why this is going, and I am happy as a Verdance player that it's going, if I'm honest. I like the card. I, however, understand what it does to the win-loss rate. And, as somebody who constantly states I would like them to fix these 99% win rate games, I am happy to be the guinea pig, as it were. I am happy for the hero I play to be held to the standards that I want them to hold the other heroes to. Now, I might be back here complaining like hell in a few months when they don't bother fixing anyone else, but, I hope it's the start of, many tweaks to come where they try and stop that, because I think it's important to stop it. What this does for us in the head slot is really interesting, because we have 2 choices. We have Plume, we no longer have Plume, and we have Crown of Providence. And I'm pretty sure there is not a single other viable headpiece at all, unless you're just going to run Iron Rot. Herein is a problem, and here is something that, I do think they really should have maybe hurried on this a little bit. If you are a newer player or a financially challenged player, I think this has a horrible repercussion. Believe you can get a non-foil Crown of Providence for about £110 in the UK. $150, give or take. Dollar value is probably different anyway, because it's a different market. But just trying to give the context of what it costs here to the Americans. It's a lot of money. Yeah, it's a hell of a lot of money, and people need to acknowledge that fact. Having the only common head slot that you can use banned is a problem. I was lucky enough that I bought a crown last month because somebody I know was selling up, and I was like, "Well, I'll take a 12 crown." Um, yeah, I think this is a problem they do need to actually address. Um, you know, you do if you are new or not rich enough, because Plume did a lot of work for very cheap, and Crown will do a lot of work. Crown is very good. Into aggro matches, Crown is better than Plume in my opinion, which is why I've been running it in the deck at all. But yeah, I do think that's kind of the elephant in the room in terms of unforeseen repercussions. And then final thoughts on this ban list. I said I'd circle back around to Germinate. I'm going to need to do a load of testing. So this opinion is very much a I may retract it later. I believe we have now swung from we beat Florian to we don't beat Florian. If he can be bothered to run cards to beat us, I do not think we beat him anymore. Because we can only do the combo using, the 3 natural copies of Rampant. You can set up a hand for the late game that does, I think I clocked it out about 45 amp, should be about 50 arcane in one turn. That requires we'll call it a perfect hand. You need all 3 rampants, one of them has to be in the arsenal, and you need 2 life gain cards for in your hand, and all 4 potions in play, and that'll do. It's 45 plus 5 pings, so it should be exactly 50, I think, off the top of my head. That obviously does not work if you run Scythe. If you run Scythe, you need to dedicate at least 1 card to not getting Scythe, which means you're coming in the low 40s, not the 50, which is immediately scary. If he decides to go for, I forget what it's called, is it Diadem? Probably can't get through his rune chance to kill him, because he doesn't need to prevent many to not die. And the fact that he has life gain starts becoming, I would say, very scary. If he resolves a couple of 12-point germinates, I don't think you kill him anymore. And then you will fatigue out, right? Because he can grind you with 1 card 5 damage every turn forever. And you don't even have a weapon. So I have some things to play around with on that matchup. I'll come back with more thoughts at some point, I'm sure. But at the moment, I am looking at that and going, I think if they want to, they can just say no to you now. Which puts an interesting place of trying to find a way out. Do you have the backup of going into Surgeon, by the way? But again, this is like if they bother to put compliance in their deck. A compliance stat in Arsenal, if you decide, if they see a Surgeon, is going to be great, basically. But we'll see. Testing has to be done, games have to be played. But that's basically the repercussions of the ban list, I think. I think it is possible to lose to Guardians now. I think we still have an amazing win rate into them. I think we're guaranteed to be stronger into Gravy because he's just worse than he was. I do not know how strong we are into him. I still think we're on a negative win rate. And I think our Slippy matchup is looking really good. So I think all in all, verdance is going up in the world. As to how much, unsure. That's my thoughts on the ban list. Hope you've enjoyed the ramble. I will see you in the next video.